Happy Solstice, December 21st, 2023. The solstice is the time when the path of the sun, the ecliptic, is 23.5 degrees south, furthest it can be from the celestial equator. And this is why the south has more sun and the north is in its darkest, shortest day. But right at this time, the sun now begins its journey back to the north. However, it takes about 3 days for that sequence to shift from going south to returning north. And so if you count 3 days from the solstice, December 22nd, 3rd, and 4th, you have Christmas Day. So very ancient celebration that precedes the birth of Jesus, but is associated with the return of the sun, the return of the light. And so the symbolism of Christ is definitely a solar symbolism. But I want to talk to you today about another amazing solar Christ consciousness event that occurred on the 25th of December. And that is the birth of the white lion Mara. Ma-Ra, mother of the sun. This goes back into Linda Tucker's story. Linda Tucker lived in South Africa, still lives in South Africa. And back in 1991, she was on a holiday to her homeland with friends and family, and their vehicle got stranded, stuck in an area right before sundown, an area surrounded by lions. So these are open vehicles, safari vehicles, and as the sun was coming down, everything got dark, and apparently there was a new birth around that time, which means that the lions were particularly defensive. And so what happened is that they were counting their hours. They were really at the end of the rope until a young African lady with a baby on her back walked in the night through the lion pride and sat in the vehicle with them. And as soon as she did that, the lion retreated and felt safe. And that's when rescue could come in. That obviously was a trigger for a complete transformative event for Linda Tucker. Now, that's how she got involved with lion shamanism, because this lady, who was just cleaning houses during the day, in her own tribe and culture, was considered to be a high priestess, more specifically, Queen of the Lion, Maria Cosa. And she became Linda's mentor, as well as Credo Mutwa. Those of you may be familiar with him, initiating Linda into the sacred knowledge of lion guardians and lion shamanism. And there was a very particular reason why, this happened. Obviously, only after the fact could you understand why a white woman would end up in these circumstances. But fast forward about 9 years later, Linda was involved with lion conservation at the time and developing her shamanic capacities. And she connected with a lion, Ingwavuma, who became her master, her animal form teacher. And in South Africa, there's a practice of trophy hunting, especially for these magnificent males who, look beautiful on a wall. And obviously, this is part of a very expensive operation that decimates the lions in the wild because they are taken in their prime, destabilizes the prides, and causes tremendous natural damage, let alone, who can justify killing such a beautiful being just for decoration? How greedy that is. The lion disappeared as soon as he was selected to be a trophy target. And he reappeared and was shot. And he reappeared and was shot on August 22nd, year 2000. And that is when the sun in the ecliptic is aligned with the fixed star Regulus, which is the heart of the lion. And Linda later learned through her teacher, Credo Mutua, that there are several star systems. One of them is the star system of Regulus, which is a time when kings are born or die, transition. And so these lions who carry the white lion genes, even if they're tawny or white, have this higher consciousness because they are reincarnations of royalty or high priesthood. And so these lions, choose when they're born and when they die. And so it was. About 4 months later, which is a natural gestation time of a lion, more precisely 108 days is a gestation time, on Christmas Day, December 25th, in a town called Bethlehem in South Africa, was born a white lioness. Bethlehem, South Africa, is not a holy place. It's where they breed lions to the tourist industry so that they can be petted by, well-meaning tourists who want to get close to a lion. And once the lions are big enough, then from the petting industry, they are then transferred to become trophies. Usually they are drugged and then released in the small enclosure where the hunters come and shoot them. So on that day, December 25th, year 2000, a lion was born in Bethlehem in captivity. And Linda Tucker was informed of this birth and how auspicious it was by her mentor, Maria Cosa. And so this kind of was a spiritual moment as well as a conservation moment, because Linda visited that white lioness and named her Mara, Mother of the Sun. And from that on, she promised her that she would return her to the land of Timbavati, which is the only place on earth east of South Africa where white lions exist in the wild. And they've been all removed because of a wrong assumption, manipulation, that white lions cannot survive in the wild because they cannot camouflage, which is an excuse why they remove them, cage them, send them to zoos, and shoot them for $100,000. So if, number one, you are tempted to go to a petting of lions, of tigers, just know that there's horror behind it. And So, there's a whole controversy around what conservation really means. But the return of Mara to the wild took several years before the legal papers were arranged, and there was a lot of undercover activities to secure that, to secure the land, and to return the white lions. Sadly, Mara, about a year or two after her release, was killed on Easter during a hunting accident. And so this amazing story, rich with mythology, I'm just touching on the iceberg of how many connection to star systems, how many connection to mythology, to shamanism, and the fact that Mara on that Christmas day was born on an eclipse with the North Node aligned with the star Sirius. And Sirius is known in many traditions as a star that represents ancient origins. But from a lion cosmology point of view, it is where there is a connection to the white lions. Many people who have prominent Sirius activation in their charts are people who naturally have a connection with nature, telepathic abilities to communicate. It's not the only alignment, but it's one of them. And so there is something very meaningful and something very sacred about this birth. So Mara, before her passing, had 3 cubs, and this was the lineage of the first returned white lions in the wild after they've been removed. The other thing that happened is that the white lions return in the southern hemisphere, South Africa. And this is exactly aligned with the pyramids of Giza. There's a direct meridian that connects both extremes, north and south. And we know how Egypt is very strongly related to feline energy and to the consciousness of the stars. So I invite you to check this book, Mystery of the White Lions, Children of the Sun God, by Linda Tucker, where she elaborates on the story of the white lions and her teachings from Credo Mutua. And I also invite you to check the fact that Linda is coming to the United States in June 2024. She will be holding a workshop in Sedona on the Venus Star Point, June 3rd. And she will present at the Omega Institute, upstate New York, with other astrologers, including myself, Lynn Bell, and Rick Levine, and Amir Bey, who are going to create not only an extraordinary event, but an artistic installation, a shamanic experience that will involve gongs with Valerie Vare, as well as Amir's work, who is an extraordinary artist from New York and astrologer. So check out my website or the Omega website. It's a little hard to find there to join this event because it's a once in a lifetime meeting, and getting this deeper understanding about how we are connected to these star systems. These white lions are here for a reason, and that there's an astrological correlation between all these events. So you see behind me a photograph that I took when I visited those sacred lands. Beautiful, beautiful time and initiation, a heart-opening experience. Thank you. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, peace in these times of tremendous horror and suffering.